I put your full bio in the description box if anybody wants to know the whole thing. But tell us whatever you're comfortable telling us. What should we know about you? I mean, I'm not putting you on the spot or nothing. Okay, G-rated, what we should know about you. I'm just saying.
Hi, everybody. So I am a tarot reader, an astrologer. Recently found myself being a deck creator. Who knew that was a thing? What else? What else?
You do all the things.
I'm a conference speaker. I write.
She does everything.
What do you know?
Yeah. Where should we begin? Yeah, all the things. Thank you, Barb, for popping that in the chat.
Thank you.
So, Marion, we have been interacting for years now. Yeah, since because you've been watching my channel and commenting for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we got a chance to actually connect when we were both in Florida for StarCon, which was so fun. We went to, I almost said the Old Spaghetti Factory. Oh my God, my heart. We went to the Cheesecake Factory and it was so fun. We did. We picked her brain for 2 hours. It was great. It was me, Danny, Dawn, and Marion, and we had the best time.
We did.
But it's so fun. And Marion, as part of StarCon, they did this, I don't know what you call it, a performance. You guys came through it. Everybody represented it. You all wore different hats to represent the different cards.
Yes.
And which one were you?
I was a devil.
Oh, she was a great devil. I didn't get to see the performance, but I was like, that is so perfect.
Well, see, I initially started out as being Tower because I'm a chariot tower in my numerology with tarot.
Oh.
But I did not have the right shaped head to balance the tower on my head.
So you were going to either be the tower or the devil, basically.
Yeah. So my friend Ken, he was like, he had the right shaped head for so we swapped. And then because I was my red hair and then the devil, and everybody just kept saying, "Oh my God, that's so perfect. That's so perfect." And I was like,
and she kept going, "Why? Why?" Fabulous. It's fabulous. I don't know. To me, I don't know. From the first time we started chatting, you've got so much I don't know what the right word is, vibrance to your personality, but also I feel like you're not afraid to say what's on your mind. But you're a Scorpio?
No. I'm a Taurus. I'm a Taurus sun with an Aries moon and a Sagittarius rising. But the home that I grew up in, the home is if I've got several.
You just pick one. There's your winter home and then your summer home.
Transitional home. No, so my family, my mum, my dad, and my sister. My mum and sister, Scorpios through and through. And then my dad, he was a Taurus as well, but he had a Scorpio moon. So I jokingly say that I grew up in a nest of Scorpios. So I have a lot of Scorpio energy, that just really exudes from me.
Yeah, it's funny because you made that comment on your Facebook about you went out for a really nice meal, and I think you said you're Taurus heart, and I was like, wait, I thought Marion was a Scorpio. I'm so confused. But I'm also really bad at the chart thing and understanding. So I would love to pick your brain. But before I start picking your brain for all the astrology nuggets, I would love to hear how you got started with astrology, first of all. Because is that your first love, astrology, or did you come to which was first, tarot or astrology?
Kind of astrology, but kinda because I was about 4 or 5 years old.
Oh my God.
I know. And it was basically watching breakfast TV here in the UK, and there was an astrologer on every morning in breakfast TV just to say about the stars for the day.
Yeah.
I have this really memory, this really strong memory, right? He's sitting in my school uniform, because we wear uniforms here, and eating my breakfast, and my mum saying, "Marion, if you don't move, you're going to miss the school bus." And I'm like, "Mum, I want to see if Mars is going to be in Taurus, so I know how much trouble I'm going to get into today." And she's like, "You're going to start getting into trouble right now if you don't move."
You're like, I need to know what's happening. But that's interesting because that sounds like that was like when you said breakfast TV astrologer, my first place my brain went was like cosmopolitan newspaper horoscopes, not Mars and like Mars and what did you say?
And
Mars and
Mars and
Scorpio?
Taurus.
Or in Taurus, Mars and Taurus. Yeah, because like I feel like my first exposure and for a long time my only exposure to astrology was literally those like kind of cheesy horoscopes. I remember still to this day those little scrolls. Does anybody else remember these? They're little like paper scrolls. I don't know if you had them over there. They were little paper scrolls. You could get them at like the checkout stand at like grocery stores or 7-Elevens or gas stations or whatever, but they'd be like little tight scrolls of paper wrapped in plastic and you'd pick the one for your sign and you pull it out and you'd get this like you'd unroll it. And they're like maybe like this wide, but you'd unroll it and you'd read all this stuff about like your month and it was so fun. I remember getting those sometimes or like, but to me, that feels to me like a totally different thing. I know it's probably related, but it feels like a totally different thing than what I know today to be astrology and how people read astrology. So your first interaction was just that breakfast TV interaction. Yeah.
And what's really cool is the breakfast TV astrologer, right? He's still about,
Yeah.
and he's like a TV personality and everything. And I follow him on Instagram, and I commented on one of his like reels that he did, and he replied to me, and it was like this full circle moment, like, oh my god.
Oh my God. That's how I felt when I reached out to the author, Stephen Cosgrove, of there's these books. Actually, hold on, I'll grab them.
Okay.
You can still hear me, but they're the little, oh yeah, here they are. So this was my introduction to unicorns, was through these books by Stephen Cosgrove. So there's this Morgan and Me. These are different versions. These you can get them on his website now. And this one called Creole, and this one called Leo the Love. He had this whole series of books called Serendipity books, but this was my favorite. And I reached out to order a signed copy, and I got a not signed copy. So we ended up text messaging back and forth, and he sent me these little book plates. But it was so funny because when he responded to me, I'm like, oh my God, you're the first person that connected me to unicorns, and you're talking to me. How wild is that? So I totally get like that full circle moment is so cool when I can't believe that person is still making content astrology related now decades later, right?
I can't steady on. I'm not that old.
Oh, well, I am. So, well, wait a minute. So you were watching this when you were 4 or 5 years old?
Yes.
You're an adult.
Which is obviously just 20 years ago, Lisa.
That's still several decades. I'm just saying. Steady now, she says. Oh my God, Nat still has your Morgan and Me book. That's incredible. Speaking of which, guys, I'm going to be picking Marion's brain, but obviously if you have questions or you want to throw stuff in the chat, please do. Jenny says, I'm a Scorpio rising, Virgo sun, Aquarius moon.
Oh, Jenny, I'm so sorry.
Okay, you can't say that and not explain yourself. Tell Jenny why you're sorry.
That's a really, really hard set of placements. So it is 2 fixed signs, and and they're squaring each other, and then
Which ones are squaring?
The Scorpio and the Aquarius. So they're squaring each other. So it's a wee bit of and then with the perfectionism of the Virgo.
Oh yeah, so tough that way.
That's the Aquarius moon's the
Don't be alarmed, Jenny.
No, Jenny, please don't be alarmed, because you know what? I truly believe that nobody is given astrology placements that they cannot handle.
True.
That
makes sense. Yeah. So you started with this television show where you first, but then when did you decide, you know what, I want to do this, like I want to learn this system, or did you like learn it over time, or was it like a dedicated like, okay, I'm going to learn it now, like I'm going to learn it?
It was a very organic thing, it was always like in thereabouts, because it's like we say, like kind of divination, fortune telling, whatever, it's a family business. Because My mum, she's retired now, but she was an incredibly gifted medium.
Yeah.
My dad, he was psychic, even though he never admitted it. You know,
And they never do they?
he was a joiner to trade, but he just kind of knew stuff. You know, he just knew stuff.
Yeah.
His mum and his aunt, so my gran and great aunt, they had their own office in my hometown, doing readings for people. So people would
Yeah.
come like, far and wide in like the 70s and 80s. And you know, so it's like the two sides of my family, it was like it kind of came down, and then like I always like, as you say, like read your stars in the newspapers or in the magazines. And then in my 11th birthday, my mum gave me my first astrology book.
Do you remember
And
what it was?
it
I'm
was
so
just,
nosy.
it was a Linda Goodman book.
Oh, was it that love signs one? I feel like
It
everybody read that one.
wasn't the love signs one, but it was just the horoscopes one.
Oh, okay.
So it was right. So it was the sun signs one. That's what it was. And what she said to me was, being a Scorpio, her, you know, read it, learn it, and don't date a Gemini.
That's what she said? Read it, learn it, don't date a Gemini. All the Gemini in my chart is like crying sadly right now.
I love Geminis. I have got a fatal attraction to Geminis because you have to rebel against what your parents tell you to do.
That's very true. Yeah, that's very true.
Date a Gemini, hold my drink, watch
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Laura wants to know, what type of astrology do you practice?
Okay, so I am currently transitioning from modern astrology to Hellenistic astrology.
Okay.
Hellenistic
And
and ancient astrology.
is that, and I forgive my ignorance, is that different? Are those both different than Western astrology?
No, it's like they're both Western astrology. Okay,
Yeah.
it's just like how I'll say to people is like some people read Waite Smith, some people read Thoth, some people read Tarot de Marseille. You know, it's like
Yeah.
investigate them all. You know, for years I've used modern astrology, but it's just at this point in my life I found that over the last few years I was using more and more Hellenistic astrology techniques. So
Ah,
it's
yes.
like,
Okay.
right, let's go back to basics here. You know, let's, instead of like jumping in with just bits and pieces, let's go right back to the beginning and
Right.
learn through, like, have that student mindset again. And it's
Yeah.
tough, because it's like you have to unlearn so much
You
to
do. When you switch,
learn.
especially if you switch systems. Yeah, that's very true. With Hellenistic astrology versus modern astrology, and I know that it might not be an easy answer, but is there one or two like major defining differences between the two that
Um,
you could say?
it's probably for me. It's a house systems. So
Okay.
the houses, usually in modern astrology, there's loads of house systems,
Yeah,
right?
I've noticed.
All different kinds. And it's a case of, what I'll say is, try as many as you like until you find one that you really like and that really resonates with you.
Yeah.
And then use that, but then visit other ones, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So like I, I know, and again, I'm coming at this with a very, 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 very beginner, but like, I know that, like, for example, there's like the whole house
yes.
system, which
Mm,
where you don't split it up by degree. Is that the kind of differences you're talking about between modern versus Hellenistic? So is
mhm.
Hellenistic a whole house system, or is it? It
Yeah.
is.
Mhm, mhm.
Oh, look, I kind of understand something. Oh, go me. Hooray! Because I actually find when I'm looking at charts, whole house is easier for me to wrap my brain around and a little bit easier for me to track. When you start splitting up signs across different houses by degree, it gets a little bit muddy for me and a little bit harder to follow. Have
Mhm,
you found in reading for people that the whole sign versus, I don't know if I'm saying that right, whole sign or whole house, I don't remember how you say
mhm,
it.
mhm.
Yeah, so do you find that have you found an accuracy difference between the two systems, or is it just that you're more drawn to one or the other?
I think, well, for me, what it was I was practicing modern astrology with the whole house system, because Placidus and like degree houses and all the different houses being different sizes and everything. I've got Gemini, I've got Mercury and Gemini, and
Yeah.
I've 6th house sun. So basically, I'm like an OCD, overthinking, neurotic
Yeah.
nightmare. And I could not handle looking at a chart and seeing all these different sizes.
Yeah, it makes me a little twitchy, not gonna lie.
Exactly. That's what it was, but I
Yeah,
mean, it's like to each their own. I don't think
yeah,
there's one that's better than the other.
yeah,
I
fair.
think it's whatever you find easiest. I don't care what you use as long as you're using astrology and talking about it and enjoying it, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of the same with tarot or even with Lenormand and stuff. You can change things. You can decide, okay, for me, when the 7 of Wands comes up, like this is my perception. And I think to some degree, we all do that organically anyway. But
Mhm,
my sort of advice to people in general when you're playing with things like that, or you're trying to figure out what system or method works for you, is whatever you choose,
mhm,
just be consistent with it for a while before you decide whether or not it works. And then if you make a change, then be consistent with the new thing. Like what you
mhm,
don't want to do, I think, and what causes muddiness when you're reading is if you're always flip-flopping between systems or takes on something. It's one thing to like move with something intuitively, which I highly encourage, and it's another thing to go, when I'm reading Lenormand, the snake is always a deception and snakiness and whatever, but this reading, I'm going to let the snake be about transformation. I think that's where you start to come into muddiness and it creates confusion for you as a reader, and then sometimes that translates through to a confusing reading for your querent. um, Laura Laura also asked,
mhm.
what do you think of true how do you say this word? It's not
Sidereal.
sidereal.
I say sidereal.
Really?
It depends, it depends where you're from, how fancy you want to be. I just
I've heard it pronounced so many different ways, but this is what I've heard people refer to as real sky
mm,
astrology. Okay,
mhm,
here's the thing. I understand that there's a lot of like feelings between the two systems. I've seen a lot of that happen, right? A little bit of the my way's the right way, your way's the and I've seen that on both sides. So we're not
mhm.
rolling out some debate here, but
I
I'm
have thought.
curious. Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts because here's the thing. When I first heard this, I felt so shocked because I thought traditional astrology, modern astrology was based on what was actually currently. I had no idea. So I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
What do you
So
mean?
yeah, I would love to hear.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would love to hear. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Um, Again, if it works for you, it works for you. But
100%.
being a Taurus, you are entitled to your wrong opinion.
Absolutely.
Right?
Wait, is that where you're subbing? I want the tea now. What the hell? Keeping in mind this will be public. But
I'm just messing. It's like for me, it's not something that I um use.
yeah,
That's it. It's as
that's
simple
basically
as
it.
that. I think I'm just too much a traditionalist.
Yeah,
You know, and I like things the way they are, and whilst I'm not saying I'm not open to new things,
yeah,
again, it's like find something that works for you, but you don't need to start
yeah,
a fight.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Let's all be
like,
friends.
I know, let's be pals. Let's meet
Yeah,
somewhere in the middle and let's be friends. You
yeah.
know, it's like you don't have to agree with me and I don't have to agree with you, but it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person.
No.
You know?
So I guess this is my question then about sidereal or real sky versus traditional.
Mhm.
My understanding is that when the traditional system was set up, which when I say traditional, is that the same thing as Hellenistic? Just so I don't get my language mixed up. Okay, so that's what I learned is traditional. And when I learned what I learned, and again, this is, or maybe I should reword that. What I've heard is that traditional focuses more on the first 7 planets. Does that feel accurate to you?
That's correct.
Oh,
Mhm.
perfect. Okay, I'm actually retaining things. I'm so proud of myself. So, when that system was sort of put into place, I
Mhm.
have no idea how long ago, but a very long time ago,
Very,
it
very
would
long.
have it would have reflected what was in the sky at that time. Okay.
Yes.
And then what's happened is that because of shifts over time, it no longer reflects what's actually happening
Mhm.
in the sky.
Mhm.
So, when did you first find that out? Because this is like a today I learned moment, like maybe 2 years ago at the most. I can't remember. I'm bad with time, but
Um, I learned I learned pretty early on. I think I learned probably sometime in my 20s.
really?
early to mid-20s, and I was just basically a case of, "Oh, really? Oh, aye. Next."
I have to tell you all, my favorite thing is when Marion says, "Oh, I." It brings me so much joy. I wish I could properly explain why, but it really does. So when you heard that, that didn't rock your whole world, even though you'd been studying astrology or working with astrology? No.
No, because by that point in my life, Lisa, there was so many strange and weird and wonderful things going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the other side, for getting messages, for random animals and plants,
Yeah.
and that was just one where I was like, "All right,
Yeah. Because I think the thing is like if the system works, it doesn't matter. And I guess that's the punchline is if it works, it does to me, if it works, it doesn't matter. And I talk about this a little bit even in my book. I'm like, okay, well, at a certain point, or maybe this is my next book. I can't remember now. Anyways, at a certain point, you kind of have to go, is this relevant? Is it relevant that I understand how it works? Or can I just be comfortable with the fact that it works and like kind of settle into that and go, you know what, this is a great system. It works for me, done and dusted, And I think that's kind of the thing. But I understand people who are like, I want the astrology system that I work with to reflect so that if I look in a telescope, it makes sense to me. I can understand the logical connection and the desire for that for sure. On the other hand, I personally lean toward traditional or at least modern/traditional for the simple fact that it's easiest to find resources about that system. Bottom line, and I want to be speaking the same language as others. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, that seems to be the dominant system.
It's a dominant system, but I think as well, again, as you say, if you find something and it works,
Yes.
then
Embrace it.
Exactly, and I
Yeah.
think there's no rules to say that you can't chop and change. There's
Totally.
no it's like if something works right now, then fantastic. I'm not saying it's like there when I first started off like being a modern astrologer, never for a minute thought, oh well I'm gonna go and like go back into the bowels of time, do you know what I mean? And
the bowels of time.
bowels of time, going back to the ancient Egyptians and whatnot, do you know what I mean? But that's what it is. I'll show you like the course that I'm doing. It's like a kind of degree level course. This is the textbook.
Oh my God. Wait, you have to show the front. You can't show just the side of a book.
Okay. Oh, so that's
my nosiness. Hellenistic Astrology by Chris Brennan. Okay.
So Chris Brennan, he does the astrology podcast.
Oh, I do know that guy. I watch that. I watch this. Well, I watch and retain tiny amounts of it, but I watch it.
The guy who talks in a monologue and talks like that, and when I can't sleep, I go and listen to him, and he puts me to sleep. That one.
Is he the guy? Is he bald or semi-bald? Am I picturing the right? Yeah, okay. That's the same guy. I love listening to him talk about astrology. I don't know why. There's something about his approach that I really enjoy. And what's this one?
And then this is Demetra George, Ancient Astrology. So this is volume 1. There is a second volume to this.
That's just volume 1. How many? Is there 2 volumes or more than 2?
2.
2. Oh my goodness. So this probably brings us to an interesting point. Hi, welcome, Lay. Hi, I'm new here. I was wondering, do you have any suggestions for how to get into astrology? So somebody wants to dip their toes in. What are your top recommends?
First of all, do not be overwhelmed. It is really easy to go all in, and it's like love Austin Coppock. Absolutely love Austin. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's got all the personality, and Chris is basically, well, Chris is Chris. Start off with learning about the signs, learning about 12 zodiac signs, learning about the planets.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't need to be any more overwhelming than that. Don't worry about transits. Don't worry about. There's some like people online that I recommend. So like Chris Brennan, the Astrology podcast. I remember when I first started listening to the Astrology podcast, and I thought I knew about astrology, and I was like, I felt really dumb. You know, I was listening to it in the morning, you know, like going to like my muggle job at the time, and I'm like, what the fuck? What the
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
I don't
what
understand. Yeah.
no, you know, and that's what it was like. But then I think it was probably through listening to the astrology podcast that really kind of made me go into the Hellenistic techniques because both
Yeah.
Chris and Austin are traditional Hellenistic astrologers.
Right.
Mm,
So the first book that clicked for me, I'm gonna grab it. And I say clicked, but again, we know that my retention is like low. But I'll grab it. I don't know if they're still in print though. But my favorites are these Astrology for the Light Half of the Brain.
right?
Have you ever seen these?
I don't think so.
Let me show you. So this is Kim Rogers Gallagher, and the writing in this. So this is the first one. Now I
Never.
found out about this from Samantha Menzo here on
Right.
YouTube. She came on and she broke down my chart a little bit. This is
I
like
remember watching
very.
that live.
Did you watch
I watched
that?
that. It was in middle of the night, and I could. It was a time when I was had really, really bad insomnia, and I remember watching it.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Your
I
wee face was just like,
I devoured this book, and I actually haven't read yet, but I also have Astrology for the Light Side of the Future. So this one is all the basic stuff. And what I
Mhm,
like about it is it's like it's almost the if you like casual writing
mhm,
styles, this
mhm.
is uber casual. This is like casual extra. Like
Yeah,
it's very like playful, talks about breaking down your chart, but what I love about it is that it doesn't talk over my head.
no,
So if this is still in print, I really recommend this for just a really good little dip.
I
And by the end of it, you'll be able to basically understand what's going on in your chart. I feel like
mhm,
this one though is transits, which is why I still haven't even cracked the spine because transits really overwhelm me. Um, but I agree with you. Like, start with like just get to know the planets, get to
mhm,
know the houses, get to know the signs. Those are like the top three.
mhm.
I'm still stuck on houses a little bit. My Don Michelle and I created that dice casting system, and we used the houses as the 12-sided die for in that system. That's what inspires that part of the reading. And that's
Mhm.
actually been helping me get more comfortable and familiar with the house energy is in those dice casting readings, actually.
So have
But
you got
yeah, the
astrology
future.
dice? Have you
What's
got
that?
have you got astrology dice as well?
I do have a set of astrology dice, I think. But I've never I should. I don't know where they are. But
Mhm.
I don't really know what to do with them. Do I
So
just
that was what I did my presentation on at the last WDA
Oh, really?
online conference. Yeah, I did it on basically divining with astrology dice.
Yeah.
So it's like
Interesting.
asking them a question and then rolling the dice and then getting your question answered for the results of the 3 dice.
This was a WDA thing?
Mhm.
I follow their Facebook. I wonder if I can still go sign up for that. Like sometimes the replays you can still do sometimes, right? I
Yeah.
should go check for that. Let me make a note to myself.
I think it was like basically a car crash. So it was because Maria Alves was in the chat and
Mm.
my wee Taurus twin, you know. It's like
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I will definitely want to check that out for sure. Um
I'm
I
gonna
definitely want to
design and then have like a proper course for
yeah.
like for people to download.
I think
It's
that'd be really good. Have you done courses on like your website or anything like that before?
oh no, it's one of the on my to-do lists.
Oh, something you want to do in the future? Yeah. Hit me up off stream if you do decide to add that. Is your site, I saw your site has your newsletter sign up and that's about it right now. Does that sound right?
It's just a newsletter and then you can book a reading on my site. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Um, I really don't use my site to its full abilities because I've not got a clue. I'm
I'm
really
same. I don't like I finally set myself up with WordPress and I still just stumble my way through and I update it like I'm not good at keeping it up to date. But if you have a WordPress based site, there is a course builder software that you can bake into it, but it's
Mhm,
man, nowadays I feel like it'd be easier to use something that's already got its own system rather than your own site. But we can chat about it if you want to set something like that up. But it also
mhm,
depends too. You could set things up through like Vimeo and other stuff. We could chat about it if you decide you want to put something together. But
mhm.
I think it'd be great because
It's like a private downloadable YouTube video.
yeah, you could do that
Um,
too. Like
it's a
yeah,
download, you know.
yeah,
However
absolutely.
however one does that, I've got no idea.
Well, nowadays it's easier because on YouTube you can just create a video and then you can individually, personally invite people with their email address. It's hit or miss, but they have to be able to sign into YouTube to do that feature. Thank you so much for sharing Barb's link tree, guys. I appreciate that. Jenny says there's flashcards that can help you learn the astrology signs, planets, symbols, houses. A lot of astrology decks out there are great for this. There's I love the Heavenly Bodies astrology deck. Do you have that?
Yes.
I love that one because there are keywords on every.
It's so beautifully produced.
It
This
is.
book's done such a good job.
Yeah, she really has. I was gonna grab it to show y'all. I'm looking to see if it's right next to me or if it's actually, I think it's over on my shelf. I just keep hopping up. That's what we're doing today. But I want to show people because if you haven't seen it, it's just such a beautiful one. And I don't have the guidebook. Oh, no, yes, I do. It's right here. Heavenly Bodies. There it is. Okay. It's almost like I'm kind of sort of organized with my stuff. But this is this, I still don't 100% know if this is mass market or if she just sells it through Amazon.
No, it's Cisco Books.
It is mass market then. Okay. Cisco Books. So this is what the backings look like. And then these are the cards. So you have like, here's Virgo and it says integrity, reverence, and service. And something that I did is I used these cards to actually lay out my entire chart. Like the obvious stuff. I didn't do the transits or the what do you call it? The aspects. Here's an aspect. Like it'll also have like water signs, but then for planets, here's Mars, move forward and defend self. I've never used this like an oracle deck. I've only ever used it to basically just remind myself or refresh my memory of what a planet or a sign or something means. Do you work with astrology decks?
I'm just lining up the ones that are to hand just now.
Oh, I love that. Is that Astro Soul?
Of course it is. That was the beginning of all. So this is celestial bodies.
Oh, I want to hear your thoughts on this one.
This is the same creator that did the She-Wolf Tarot.
I know.
So I got the altar card size one. I love it. You know, it's a very split opinion deck. I think it's quite a polarizing deck. You know, some people either love it or some of them no.
Yeah.
You know, I just love it for its craziness. You know, it's the guidebook itself is epic.
That's the book?
That's a book. That's a guidebook. It is, let's see, 360 pages long.
Holy moly.
And it's got everything in it that you need. You know, it's got everything. The cards are crazy. You know, this is the sign. This is the cards for the signs.
So do you feel like this does a really good job of visually depicting the energy of the planet or is it planet signs? What's in there? Planet signs and
planet signs, houses, moon phases. What else have we got? Grand crosses. We've got transits. We've got numbers. We've got numerology. There's so much in it.
Oh my gosh.
It might be a bit overwhelming for a beginner. You know?
But look at the edges. I'm such a magpie. I'm like, rainbow, sparkly.
Oh, I mean, see, for instance, right, there's Pluto, right? So I'd say that's a pretty good representation of Pluto. Wow. You know, the energy of Pluto.
This is the creator's name. Do you have that on the box? Because I'm blanking.
It's
by the same as She-Wolf Tarot, Barb.
It's Divination and Wolf.
Right. And then she goes by Serpent Fire, right? If you look on the website, it's Serpent Fire. So that if you're looking for the link, that's where you'll find it.
Yeah.
Is it on sale right now? That's dangerous. Super. Love that. Okay, so it's totally on sale right now. So how do you use it? That's what I want to know.
What I use it for is I basically just use it for decoration.
I mean, I love that. I love that so much.
I use it because I have it. And I got it because I wanted it. And I got it because it was pretty and I'm a Taurus.
Oh my God. I love it. I love it. Oh, Speaking of okay, you made that comment about Taurus, so now I need to fess up. My Chiron, if I remember correctly, is in Taurus.
Hi, me too.
So does this mean that I have like relationships to heal around stuff? Or like how would you you don't have to tell me this right now. I'm not trying to like corner you into a reading or anything. I'm just like curious. Especially if yours is too. I feel like we can commiserate.
I think it's like, right, so Chiron is where is known as your excuse my hair, the note's having a
I
moment.
love your hair. Everything about it.
Having
Let
a
it be
moment.
crazy. I'm good.
It's basically your wound that you bring forth into this lifetime.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Like your wounded healer, right? Like it's the thing you need to heal or
the
work on or whatever.
now you're a Cancerian. So you're
Yeah.
so
Cancer sun.
Cancerians and Tauruses they're very closely linked.
Yeah.
You know, you find that it's like you find that you'll attract Tauruses into your life, not necessarily relationship wise, but I just mean like friendship wise.
Yeah. My best friend, one of my best friends is a Taurus. Yeah.
Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
and as soon as the three of yous walked in at StarCon,
Yeah.
I was like, Don's a Taurus.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
could just tell. You know, it
You
just
know, like she's very Taurus though. Like when I think Taurus now, I will always think her forever because I feel like she embodies that energy so perfectly.
absolutely.
Um, and Danny's a fellow Cancer. So you put us together, and I think that's one of the reasons why the three of us just gel so
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
I wish I knew off the top of my head what Danny's moon and rising was, but mine is I am a Gemini moon, and my Gemini and my moon are at the exact not my Gemini and my moon. That can't be right. I have to double check. I've got two that are literally at the exact same degree.
Okay.
But so that's where my Gemini I'm Gemini moon. What's my other Gemini? I want to say it might be
Mercury?
Mercury. I think it was Mercury. So yes, it was because the one that expands. That's Mercury, right? What's that?
Jupiter expands.
Oh no, it's Jupiter. It's Jupiter. So it's Jupiter and my moon are at the exact same degree in
Right.
Gemini.
Okay.
And then my rising is Libra.
Right. Okay. So you've got a nice wee balance there, like the kind of a with air energy, right?
Yeah.
So you've still got that like the emotional thingy, the Cancerian side of you, right? But
Yeah.
that Gemini moon and the Libra ascendant, it means that you have that's why you love to talk, that's why you love to communicate. It's like that's why, your love language is probably let's communicate, let's talk it out. And then the Cancerian side of you is probably, oh, but we need to do it with feelings as well.
Oh
We need
yeah, it's so fun to be in a close relationship with me because
Really?
I gotta process all my things. That's right. My Mercury's in Leo, which might explain why I like public speaking and I like this platform and all that, right? But it's like it's funny because I see that, and when I always felt like I was such a water person, but I think I realized in my chart I'm actually more air technically, if you were to look at it balance wise, than
Mhm.
water, which is so interesting.
Mhm.
Barb says she needs to pee, so we can't talk about anything that needs a link. So she needs a breather. Okay, so I'm gonna quiz myself just because I just love doing this. Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, or if I've retained anything, then like your sun sign is kind of like your identity. That's like who you are essentially. But your rising is often how you present. Does that sound right? Okay. And then your moon is more like emotions, like how you feel and process emotions.
Mhm.
And then your Mars is maybe how you deal with conflict or how you Mars, I guess
Contact, passion, sex.
conflict, passion, sex, love that. And then Venus is like love relationship stuff.
Love, relationship, finances, your
Finance.
material wealth, and see that's the thing that
Because
everybody
beauty and like
Venus. If you want to know about your relationship with money, where's your Venus?
yeah, interesting. I
You know,
assumed that money and finance would be more connected to like Taurus or something, more
well,
material.
Venus rules Taurus.
Oh, that makes sense then. Oh, of course it does, because Taurus likes to be surrounded by beautiful things. Venus brings that beauty in. Okay, that connects now.
Mhm.
Okay, so then Mercury is like communication and all that kind of stuff. What am I missing? Um, Jupiter. So
Mhm.
Jupiter, the only thing I remember about Jupiter is that it expands, and people tend to see that as good, but it
Uh-huh.
can expand good things and can expand bad
Yeah.
things.
So one of my absolute things that I'm totally passionate about is teaching tarot people astrology by using tarot.
Yes.
That's my kind of thing.
So Jupiter, Wheel of Fortune, right?
Uh-huh. So if you
Yeah.
think of it like that, right? Yes, it's great to see the Wheel of Fortune and it's great to expand that. But if you're going through a shit time and you
Yeah.
a Jupiter transit, then it's going to expand that crappy time.
Right. Right.
That's what it's
Yeah.
going to do. So it's like when you're up, then you're really up, but when you're down, you're really down.
Yeah, it's like a big shifty kind of energy.
Mhm.
Um, Saturn I've always heard is like bad. That's like one of the malefic planets.
Oh, look at you!
It's
Look at
like I know things. This is so weird.
you! You'll be going in that Hellenistic astrology course next and getting new textbooks.
No, because it's like I'm always surprised when I know more than I think I do. But like, yeah, so Jupiter would be benefic, Saturn would be malefic, right? So then Saturn is usually bringing, is it kind of like, if I'm thinking tarot,
Mhm.
which one's Saturn? Why am I blanking?
The
What is
world,
it?
the
Oh, the
world.
world. It's funny because I often think of the world as one of the qualities I associate with the world is boundaries, which I
Yes.
don't hear a lot of. But I get that from Saturn actually. When I first started thinking of the world as boundaries, I was thinking of the rings around Saturn because I learned about the association with Saturn. And I was like,
Mhm.
well, those rings create like sort of a boundary. Does that hold up as astrologically, or is that just like a random thing?
No, it's just because it's like I actually have a love affair with Saturn. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like I that was what I did my talk on at a UK Tarot conference there in October.
Oh, Saturn.
Um, yeah, with Saturn. It was basically the Saturn years, that's what I called it. And it was this kind of a tongue-in-cheek look at Saturn, but still with
Yeah.
a lot of depth to it.
Yeah.
Because you can't talk about Saturn and no be deep. How I describe Saturn to people is it's like, you know how when you were at school and you had that one teacher who was really, really hard on you?
Yeah.
At the time you hated them and you hated what they made you do. But once you left school and now you look back, you realise that they were the best teacher that you ever had and you always retained the lessons that they taught you.
Yeah.
That's Saturn.
Yeah. It's funny because one of the first astrological things, obviously we hear about Mercury retrograde all the time, but one of the first astrological things that really hit hard for me was Saturn return.
Yeah.
And that is because my Saturn return was like when I looked at it and I started looking at what happened during that time for me, that was like, oh my God, like my entire biological family like blew up.
Mhm.
I got married, I moved to Canada, like all these things were happening. I literally my life pre Saturn return and post Saturn return are like two completely different existences.
Yeah.
They don't even feel connected almost
Mhm.
half the time.
Mhm. So
Um,
where's your Saturn, Natalie?
what's that?
Where is
Where
your
is it?
Saturn? Uh-huh.
Let me look. I can pull it up real quick because I keep it bookmarked. Because I refer to it randomly. I'm like, something's going on, and I'll go look, right?
Uh-huh.
It's under Astro is where I keep it. Hold on. I'll tell you. I never remember, which is so funny. Because I feel like I remember a lot of the other ones. So my Saturn is in. Here's my chart. I've got mine and Peggy's both in here. Except chart drawing. Why is it zoomed in 1,000%? Okay, here we go. My Saturn is. I just have to remember what Saturn looks like. It's like the plus with it's like the H.
Uh-huh.
Leo.
So Leo. Right, okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. With
Right.
my Mercury. My Mercury and Saturn are both in Leo.
Mhm. So Saturn and Leo is Saturn isn't the most comfortable in Leo. It's not the
Right.
worst place for it to be.
So it's not it's not, there's 3 relationships, right? There's like, it rules it. It's, what's the term where it is opposite? Like it's anti. What's that term?
It's no
Like,
position.
what am I trying to say? Like, a planet can rule a sign. It
Mhm.
can be kind of like comfortable in that sign. Maybe there's 4, right?
So
It can be uncomfortable.
it can be the ruler, it can be in its detriment, it can be in its
That's what it is.
fall, it can
Right.
be um exalted, and it
That's what
can
it is. Those are the ones I'm thinking of.
and
It can be
it
what
so
now?
it can be neutral as well.
Okay, neutral.
So
So
there's some signs that the planets go into and it doesn't have any effect in them.
interesting. So what is the relationship then between Saturn and Leo?
So if you think about it, right, Saturn's very much let's play by the rules.
Yes, that makes sense.
Saturn's
Okay.
a structure. Saturn
Yeah.
is like your financial institutions, your kind of things like that, let's be in charge, let's bring order for chaos, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then Leo likes to be the ruler. Leo likes to rule,
Right.
right?
So it's almost like 2 strong energies or strong personalities, like 2 type A people kind of, but type A in different ways, kind of.
Mhm. Yeah.
So they're kind of like, ugh, they're kind of gritty.
Aye. Uh-huh. But
Interesting.
then so it's like so for me, I have got like astrologers look at my Saturn placement right and be like, oh,
Where's your Saturn? Do you mind sharing?
My Saturn's in Libra. Right, and they look at it
Oh.
and they're like, oh, that's beautiful. And I'm like, I look at its opposition and then they're like, and then the
Wait, explain. Okay, so what's the opposition?
right. So in my chart, I have got 2 exact oppositions, right?
Okay.
And they're in Libra and Aries. So basically, with all these planets moving into Aries and all this activity, right, my life is getting very interesting, shall we
Yeah.
say, interesting.
Yeah. Valid.
Um, we'll not talk about Wednesday evening and my hurtling myself downstairs.
No, for real? Wait, you said you hurt your foot.
I hurt my foot. I broke my toe.
You broke your toe. Okay, you probably said that. I'm so sorry. I was distracted at the time. You broke your toe?
I
Oh
broke my
no.
toe. And in the famous Atlantis bookstore in London, the oldest occult bookstore in the world, I broke
Is
my
that where you fell down the stairs? No, I'm so sorry. That's
It
terrible.
was probably the ghost of fucking Alistair Crowley coming at me.
I'm just giving you a kick down the stairs. They saw you coming. Oh
Like,
no.
hell no.
There's an interesting conversation happening in the chat, you guys, about malefic. I didn't know that was a touchy term, but like I guess it makes sense, right? Some people are, if we don't want to necessarily like broadly categorize, just like we wouldn't do in tarot, broadly categorize a planet as bad. It is the term I learned, um but I know what you mean. Like it's kind of like we can look at the tower and say that's a bad card, but we all know that if we look at the tower and call it bad, we're limiting its scope, right? So I imagine it's the exact same way with Saturn, right? Yeah.
It's like, the thing is, it's like once, and that's what I'm saying, because before I was done like the kind of, I don't really want to say the conversion. That sounds really.
It sounds like something, yeah.
Certain places that we tend to run away.
Yeah, truth. Yeah.
But it's like, when you go really deep into the history of astrology, then you understand these terms and you understand the meaning behind these terms. And what
Yeah.
look at from a modern perspective, or like, it's like, well, oh well, that planet's at its fall, so we automatically think, oh well, that must be bad. But it's not, it's just
No.
a term that's
You know, I
used.
learned it I learned it almost like house, like if you're going to somebody's house or whatever, if there's a house and there's all these different rooms, you're
Yes.
going to have different relationships with each room. Like somebody who loves reading is going to feel so comfortable in the library, right? But if you go into the library and there's somebody in there who's being like super loud and obnoxious, like a Leo, you're suddenly going to be kind of uncomfortable. So the relationship between other planets as other people in the room, and the
Mhm.
relationship of the planet to the room or to the house, to me is kind of like a big party where people are moving through a house, different rooms with other people, having different experiences, and based on who's where and how they're interacting. That's kind of how I visualize it. And so, yeah, being in fall, being detriment, being exalted, whatever, it's kind of to me a way to describe what is, who's kind of comfortable, who's a little bit uncomfortable, who's feeling tension, who's not feeling tension, and like how those things are affecting the overall energy of the gathering.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just a combination of me being Scottish and identifying most with the Queen of Swords. I don't know. Maybe it's me getting brought up with Scorpios. I've literally got rhino hide, and things just slide off me.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's funny because I think a lot of these terms can make people feel like to me it is. It's a whole language. But if you think about it, I feel the same about tarot. Like tarot is its own language, and like over time we learn terms and we learn ways to relate to it and how to understand the interplay between cards. But initially when you learn tarot, you learn this card, then that card, and then over time you start to understand how these things mingle and interplay and affect one another. And same thing with any other divination system, Lenormand or whatever.
Well,
Um,
that's what most people do. Obviously, I
yeah,
have to be different.
yeah, it's good to be different. I like that. So,
Totally.
so I don't want to like table the whole discussion at all about astrology. I'm sure we'll circle back, but let's pause for a second and skip over to cards and tarot and
Okay.
oracle and all that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
we kind of heard your origin story about astrology, but where did tarot come in your story?
So tarot came in first of all. Well, cards in general came in probably round about the same time as the astrology, and it was playing cards. And
I love that.
and basically what it was is every Sunday morning, my uncle Charlie, one of my dad's brothers, would come up and visit my dad.
Yeah,
And while my mum went to church, and they would teach me how to play poker.
I love that for you so much. Yeah.
5, 6-year-old, right? It was like their idea, right? Let's teach her how to count and get familiar with numbers. Let's teach her poker. That's what,
Sure.
right?
Absolutely. Seems like a valid parenting choice to me.
Obviously, my mum knew nothing about this,
Obviously.
you know. And my sister, she would be like away playing a game or something, and I would just be like, right, okay. And they'd be like, Mum will teach you a wee game, hen. One. I'd be like, all right. Um, so we would do that, and then it was a jack of clubs, and I looked at it and I'm like, "Oh, Dad, I don't like that card." And he was like, "Why do you not like the card?" And I started like saying all these things, like I just thought I was like making up a story. And it
Yeah.
turned out that I was actually describing a situation that was going on in my Uncle Charlie's work.
Interesting. I love stories like this. That's
So
fascinating. So you really were tapped in. I think we're so much more tapped in actually when we're young. If we don't have anything or anyone getting in the way, I feel
mhm,
like so many of us would like lock into our psychic or intuitive awareness from
mhm.
such a young age and then just stay connected. It's
So
other people that ruin it for us.
So that was always encouraged in my house, like, growing up,
I
um,
love that.
just because of, like, who my mum and dad were, and it was like, my mum tells a story where it's like she walked into my room one night, and I was standing at the bottom of my cot holding on to the railing, and I was having a conversation,
Yeah.
like, with nobody
Yeah.
here, and then my mum went out to my dad and says, "Look, John, oh, John," my mum, and she'd be like, blah, 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 and my dad was like, "Look, it's all right. She's just talking to my dad. Don't worry about it. It's fine."
Oh, I love that, my heart. That is the most adorable story. So,
Mhm.
playing cards, did you find yourself doing divination with playing cards then from a young age? Or
Not
was that
really.
just where it sort of began?
It was just kind of a where it began, and then, my first tarot deck, I mean, like, I always knew about tarot cards, given, like,
Yeah.
the family business, it was all
Mhm.
things like that, and, like, talking to, like, my mum in her wee voice, or we
Mhm.
voice tell her things, So
Yeah.
that was like normal conversations for our house, but I still knew that outside there was certain places and that I hadn't to speak about things like that. You know,
Right.
there was still that kind of a right. I'm not going to get into school and say, "Oh, what did you do this weekend, Marion?" Oh, my dad learned me to play poker, and one of the cards started telling me a story. That
Yeah.
oh, but then I was skipping school one day at high school. So I was at
Of
high
course
school,
you were.
of course,
This sounds so on point for you.
I was about 14. And in that afternoon, I had PE, so like
Yeah.
gym class, and as you can see, I mean, I'm the height of fitness, and I mean,
You have a presence. You have
oh,
a presence.
aye. I'm just right in there with the gym and 5 a.m. runs. I
No.
don't, no, no, no.
No.
Um, and then after PE, we had religious education, and I was like, fuck. I just could not be bothered that day. So
Yeah.
high school was like right next to like a street away from the train station. So I was
Oh.
like, mates, I was like, I'm cutting because I'm not,
Yeah.
I just don't have the energy in me today to listen
Yeah.
to two. I can't be bothered. So I was like,
Yeah.
when I was like, I'm going into Glasgow. So I toddles along, gets the train into Glasgow, takes the school tie off so I wouldn't be identifiable to which school I was at. And
You had this down. She's like, I'm gonna
oh,
stealth skip right now.
so I'm wondering about Glasgow city centre, looking at like, it was the 90s, it was
Yeah.
like the real 90s. So looking at in the different shops and that, seeing what I liked. And then there was this like wee kind of side street, and I smoked then, right? I smoked up until 2 years ago, right? Um,
Wow.
I gave up cold turkey. I just decided one day. That was a whole story as well to do with astrology, but anyway.
Oh my
Um
God.
so basically I'm standing outside this wee shop up this wee kind of quiet street, and I lit up a cigarette, and I'm
Yeah.
standing smoking the cigarette, and this woman comes out our shop, and she stands and lights up a cigarette as well. And it's Glasgow, we're the most dangerous friendly city in the world.
Okay.
That's what we're known for. We've got the highest murder rate in Europe, and we've also got the friendliest people in Europe.
Interesting. That sounds like a mix for a serial killer population, but okay. I hadn't heard that about Scotland. That's hilarious. I had no idea.
You might get stabbed, but at least they'll talk to you first. They'll be friendly.
They'll be, yeah. Would you like a cup of tea before I stab you? Cool. Things you learn about this is Glasgow specifically.
Did you just say glass cow?
No, I think I said Glasgow, but I might have said Glasgow. So sorry. Goodness. Okay, so it's that city that has that reputation?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, noted. So she lights up a cigarette next to you.
I'm smoking a cigarette, so we start chatting away, and then I didn't even notice what the shop was. Right, I
Yeah.
didn't even know, and then so I flicks my cigarette and then I drain, and she does the same. Bear in mind, it's the 90s. Remember, it's totally cool
It's
for
the
a
90s.
teenager in a school uniform to be smoking a cigarette, and an
Yeah.
adult no batting an eyelid, right? It's cool.
Yeah.
And
Such a mental image.
so she just turned around and she looked at me and she's like, "So you came in to buy that deck of tarot cards?" And I'm like, "Aye, all right then." It's like,
Okay.
it's like it's in, and they had. It turns out it was like a wee witchy shop, so it had crystals everywhere, it had incense, it had weird music playing, it had like tapestries, it had all the things, and then in the glass cabinet there was a Thoth deck, a Rider Waite Smith, a Tarot de Marseille,
Yeah.
and the Dragon Tarot.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Which
Yes.
one did you buy?
Of course I wanted the Thoth.
Of
I was
course,
like,
eh?
"Oh, I want that one." And she's like, "No, the new." As in just now, know the new hen, know the new. And I'm like,
I was just gonna say, did you put up with that?
I was just like, really? And
Really?
she's like,
No.
no.
So?
I get the Dragon Tarot because
No, I didn't know that was your first deck.
give me 2 seconds.
That's the first deck I got. For those of you who don't know, that's the first deck. I got that deck for Peggy. Right around the time we got married. I got her the Dragon Tarot.
So
It's a classic.
and
Yeah,
here is the very deck.
I love it. I
All
love it. You've got
dog-eared and battered and
yeah, Peggy's whole like top flap of her tuck box is off. Like the book, she kept it in the box for years. The book is shredded, like pages are falling out. I love that was your first deck. That's
so
amazing.
that is what I learned tarot with, and I learned it with this.
Yep. That's how we did back in the day. You learned it with what came with it. That's
No
what you did.
internet, no nothing, no,
Yep.
and yep, we've seen some shit.
Yeah, I bet you have.
Seen
And
this
that
deck.
deck, y'all, thank you, Barb, because I was gonna say that deck is still available.
Yes.
You can still get it. It's a classic. It's a classic.
It's beautiful. It is incredible, and all the images are hand drawn.
Yep.
And you can see that, you can see that the artist has hand drawn them all because you can see like that they're not all perfect. They're not all perfectly unilateral, and
Yeah.
there's just something deeply, deeply special.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it always sits. I don't always use it, but it always sits in my desk, my reading table.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So when did you start reading for professionally? Like you read professionally for clients. Yeah. When did you start that?
When my best friend seen the deck of tarot cards in my school bag,
Yeah.
she was
Tell
like,
me you charged your best friend. Tell me you
"Aye,
charged her.
listen,
What did you charge her? Did you charge her money? Did you trade for lunch stuff? What did you do? I want to know.
charge them money."
Hard
So
cash.
basically, hard cash.
Girl, I love you so much.
My Taurus. So basically, he found out about it, and then other girls like found out about it. So I was doing a roaring trade at lunchtime and break time in the girls' toilet, in the girls' bathrooms at school. They were coming in, and I was pulling tarot cards for them. So it was like £1, just say like $1 a card. So if they
Oh
wanted
my
like
God.
$1, $2, they would get 2 or 3 cards.
That is magic. I love that you did that.
So see, like when people say, "Oh, well, when's the right time to start like charging or reading professionally?" Don't ask me. It's like just don't ask me.
Yeah, that is so funny because I felt like I think so many of us have got hung up
Yes.
about when are we like allowed? Like when can we step into that space, right? I think for me, I like really gradually like tiptoed
Mhm.
my way in. And it's funny, the first interview I ever did on YouTube where I was talking to somebody shortly after I started my channel, actually, I was asked
Mhm.
about that, like if I was a professional. I was like, what's a professional? And I was so uncomfortable with the term.
Yeah.
I'm not anymore, but I really was. And it's funny because I think to me, maybe it's because of like being a background in like yoga, where it just felt like everyone, whenever there was like a spiritual or metaphysical bent to something, it's like everybody got really uncomfortable with money and exchange of energy and like all that kind of thing. And so I think I had some of that like baggage in there for sure. And also
Mhm.
like I think a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, am I good enough to charge somebody
Mhm.
money? Like, is that fair? Like, I wanted to feel like I knew that I was offering value.
Yeah.
And it took me so long to feel confident enough to go, yes. And I started out doing free, then I did real cheap. I did my first professional readings outside of like in-person people that I knew
Mhm.
was on eBay. Actually, I don't even know if I don't think you can technically do that. I don't know,
But
but
you
I
can't
don't
do
think
it anymore.
no.
I remember there was like this big thing with eBay where they decided that it was because at one point there was hundreds of tarot readers. I never done it on eBay. Hundreds of tarot readers on eBay, and they totally lost everything. They lost their
Really.
whole livelihood because eBay changed the rules and said that they were no longer allowing like what they termed as fortune telling
Same thing
on.
on other platforms now, on digital platforms. A lot of them, it's not allowed. And I think a lot of the reason that is because it's too easy to blur lines on platforms like that around like what you're offering. It's when all that whole, it seemed like that changed around the time when everybody has to say for entertainment purposes, like you have to have all these like liabilities because you don't want, and unfortunately there are people who will go to a reader and see that as this is, how do I say this right? They'll give away all of their agency. Like they won't take any responsibility for their own lives, and it goes entirely on whatever the reader said. And that kind of displacement of power leaves a lot of room for abuse, a lot of room for abuse. And so I understand it. And I've had people come to me who have had that happen, where somebody has told them just something really terrible about themselves in an effort to sell them some sort of package. You know what I mean? Or I can fix this for you. Or you're totally like, you're possessed or cursed or whatever, and I'm going to help you.
You've got an evil dark spirit attached to you. Give me $1,000 and I'll clear it away for you.
It literally makes me so mad. And to this day, I've still had clients come to me who really don't have a lot of faith in their own agency, and that's so heartbreaking to me, because I feel like my job is, as a reader, is you should leave my table feeling more empowered and more like you have more agency in your life, never less. And like if it's less, I'm doing harm, and that's not cool with me. You know what I mean? Michelle has a question for you. What is your personal opinion about why tarot works?
Why it works? Because it just does.
Same. Yeah, just does.
It just does.
Yeah.
I think there's like, do you need to believe in it? No. Because I've got clients, I have genuinely, hand to God, I have got genuine clients who do not believe in tarot, who think it's a load of hokum.
Yep.
But they consistently come to me every 3 months for their reading.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and yes, they are men. Yes, they are men. And they are straight men.
Why is it always the straight men? I mean, listen, I love boys. Don't get me wrong. Please don't take this wrong. But every time I've had a person test me as a reader, it has legit been a man.
Yep.
And I'm going to sound like a real bad person right now, but my favorite readings have been when men like that have come to me and left, like either actively crying because I've hit their heart, or just looking shooketh. My favorite thing is to shooketh those boys. Okay. And again, I realize how that makes me sound. I promise I'm not evil, but like because I'm
right there with you.
It's just so gratifying. It's like, and it's funny. If he wasn't my boss, my favorite person to make shooketh would be my boss, because he's so funny. He's very supportive. He doesn't believe in it at all, and he's like, "Oh, anybody can say anything, and you can just say like it means whatever." And I'm like, "Sure, you can make that argument, but like that's not been my experience." And so, but it's funny because I won't read for people I work with. It's just bad idea. You find out way too much, and it gets real uncomfortable. But if not for that, I would love one day, like if I ever like leave there, I'll be like, let me give you a reading. Let me give you a reading. But because it's always, and it's so funny, but yeah, that is definitely a stereotype that I've seen play out. It's
a curiosity, you know, and it was like, I mean, as you know, like for many, many years I worked in criminal justice.
Yeah.
You know, and I worked for the police. You know, I wasn't a cop, you know, but I worked for the police, and I was working with operational cops, like on the job, like fighting the bad people.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious, you know, because these big burly cops, you know, and they would come in, they'd be like, Marion, and they would come in a bit shifty, you know, and they'd be kind of looking at their feet, you know, and kind of doing all this with their hands. I'm like, what have you done, and how much is it going to annoy me?
That's amazing.
And if they had chocolate, see if they had white chocolate in their hand, then I would know that I was going to get pissed off because they were Chinese. Honestly.
Look, I brought you a little treat. That's so funny.
Don't shout at me, Marion, please. They would come in and be like, you know how that thing, you know, that thing you do, and I'm like, what thing?
Say it with your chest, boy.
The thing, and they do all this weird kind of, it's a shuffling card, you know, the thing, and I'm like, the thing? What are you trying to insinuate, officer? And I would eventually put them into my misery. I'd be like, "Do you mean a tarot card reading?" "Aye." And I'm like, "What about it?" Well, you see, I'm having a wee bit of bother, with the missus, and I mean,
Always with the missus, right?
always with the missus, and I'd be like, "How did she catch you with the one you weren't supposed to be with?" "No, no."
I love how straightforward you are. That's amazing.
So, like, I would get, like, I would do readings for them, but I mean, but I
Yeah.
shouldn't bother, it's like, wait till I finish my shift, come in, because I had my own office.
Yeah.
Great, so, like, they would just pop in, and, like, after their shift and after my shift, and we would do a reading and that, and some of the guys are still my clients today,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
adorable. That is
and
the most just genuine story. I love that. I love that so much.
I mean, see, when I
That's
left, they bought me a star.
like a
A star in the sky, like,
oh,
companies that, it's like they buy so many things, and I don't even know if it's a real thing or not, but they gave me it, and it was like a certificate, and I've actually got it up on my
oh,
wall
that's so
here.
cute.
I
Take care, Jennifer.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
bye, Jennifer. That's adorable. Okay, so
Right.
cards.
Yes.
So, you've participated in other people's deck creations. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And then I want to talk about your deck creation. So tell us, like, you kind of tiptoed in by first helping other people with their projects. Is that sort of how you got into? Okay, so tell us a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Okay, so the deck that I really my first kind of a foray into it was let's look at it here. This is not a deliberate thing, by the way. I've just got a tower of cards.
No, I'm glad you have it there. Yeah, show us.
So the first one was the Wandering Moon Tarot. Just this, I wrote the guidebook for it. How it happened was, it was 2020, and 2020 was 2020, and
Yeah.
over in Australia, she started doodling, and she doodled some cards, and she ended up with a tarot deck.
This one's really interesting. And she's doing or did just recently a new edition in a different color or something like pink. Am I remembering that right?
Yes, pink, a mini deck in pink. It's called the Cosmic Pink version.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of similar but different. There's some cards that have been tweaked and changed.
Yeah.
And then there's a completely different Majors Only deck as well, and there's an Oracle deck. So I was just following along on Instagram with everybody else, and we've got the shiny sides.
I love the Rainbow Hollow. Yeah.
And I was just following along with it and loving it, and it was just really connecting with me.
Yeah.
And then, everybody doesn't know, my dad passed away November 2020 with the virus, and my world just turned upside down.
Yeah.
And then it was the January. So he passed in November 2020, and then it was the January 2021. And I get this email for Rachel, and she was, "Hi Mars," she calls me Mars. I'm just wondering, she'd launched a Kickstarter, and she wasn't going to do a guidebook, because her idea was, there's enough tarot resources out there. Why do I need to do a guidebook? But everybody who was like backing the Kickstarter were like, "No, we want a guidebook. We want a guidebook." She's like, "I'm an artist. I'm not a writer." And then it was like, I had commented a few things, like what I seen in the card and the message and how it connected with the meaning of the card for me. So she messaged me and she was like, "Look, I can't write a guidebook. Will you write it?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Fuck it. Aye, all right then."
Okay. All right. I'm so glad you said yes. Yeah.
And that was that, and that the thing is, it was like, to write it in a week we ended up having to write the guidebook in a week, and
Yeah.
craziest week in my life, but we did it. And I say that this deck, I'm not being over dramatic when I say this, but this deck probably saved my life.
Yeah, it gave you something to pour yourself into, right?
Gave me something
Yeah.
to pour myself into, and it gave me a reason to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it gave me a reason to just keep going.
Yeah, when you're overwhelmed by loss and pain, having something to shift your focus can literally be like a life raft in the water.
Aye, because I mean, if you
Yeah.
think back to that time, you know, we weren't allowed to gather together. We weren't allowed to spend time with people. You know, I wasn't allowed
Yeah.
to see my mum's. I wasn't allowed to physically touch anybody. You know,
God,
there was nothing. You know, all those usual things
that
that
would
you
comfort.
do that would bring comfort in a time of loss. We never had it.
God, that's
You
so
know,
brutal.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's super brutal.
But
So
that's
many people were really, really in a bad spot, really in a bad spot from a mental health perspective. And then when you have loss on top of that, and there was loss on
Mhm.
top of loss for a lot of people, like people lost people, but they also lost jobs, they lost livelihoods, they lost friends. I mean,
Mhm.
we have this collective trauma that we've truly all been through, and
Mhm.
to different degrees, right? Some of us did a lot better than others, but it has
Mhm.
been such a life altering, paradigm shifting experience. I am convinced that the way we relate to each other today is
Mhm.
permanently different
Yes.
than the way we related to our to other people prior. And I think some of that has been ultimately shifts that have brought us closer in
Mhm.
different ways, and I think there's others that have like divided us. And I
Yeah.
think that's it's inescapable to recognize that the entire world went through such a shift.
Mhm.
So you did this guidebook with I'm sorry, I forgot her name.
Rachel Jean.
Rachel. Yeah. You did this guidebook project with Rachel, and through that did you get a kind of a look at what the behind the scenes, I guess, of Kickstarter and production and all that stuff kind of looks like? Is that sort of where you kind of first got exposed to that?
Kind of. I mean, obviously, I had back Kickstarters before. Do you know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
you know, I think like possibly 2014 was when I backed my first like crowdfunding deck. You know, something like
Oh, you're
that.
way ahead of me. My
I,
first one was like
I
2017 or 2018.
I
Yeah.
I was right in there. You know, like kind of right at the kind of beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been in the tarot block more than once, Lisa. You know.
Oh, you sure have. You sure have.
uh,
So obviously, that experience, both with the loss and what you went through, ultimately led you to decide you wanted to create your own deck. I'd love to
mhm,
hear a little bit more about where that process began for you. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, we're going to be talking about the Grief Journey Oracle, which you put on Kickstarter. It was fully funded on Kickstarter.
mhm.
This is the one and only deck review that literally left me sobbing 2 cards in. I had to edit that shit out because I lost my ever loving mind. If you haven't seen, I have a whole video. You can watch the full walkthrough, and the experience sans me crying. You will hear it in my voice if you listen for it. It's near the beginning, but I literally it took my breath away. So I'd love to hear sort of the birth story of this project.
I still don't know where it came from. You know, I
Yeah.
was like, it was a case of I'm a card reader.
Yeah.
I read the cards. I,
Yeah.
I never seen myself as a deck creator. It was never something that was in my idea, you know, something that I would do. I
Yeah.
was quite happy, you know, just to do the things that I was doing and like getting the opportunities to speak at different events and write for the Esotorocle magazine, you know, all those things, you know. I was just happy to do that. And
Yeah.
but then there was something just kept niggling, you know, and nagging, you know,
Yeah.
you need to do something. I'm like, I don't want to do anything, you know. No, you need to do something. I'm like, I don't,
I understand that
you
feeling.
know,
Like it's like being
it,
haunted almost. It's
yeah,
like I have to do the thing. Like you hit this point and you're like, I just have to. I just have
ah,
to.
yep. And I was
There
just
you
like,
go.
what the heck? And I'm
Yeah.
like, so I struck on this idea because it was partly because I was looking for something. Right now, I am a firm believer, right, that there is no aspect of life that tarot cannot help you with.
I agree. Yeah.
There is 78 cards, but what I say is there is 78 cards, but it could, each card and each combination of card that you pull in a spread or whatever can answer anything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, I'm totally, you know, that is where my heart is. You know, I'm tarot through and through.
Yeah.
But I was just looking for something.
Yeah.
Something that wasn't tarot. And for the deep, hard stuff, I was actually using the Murder of Crows deck.
Gotcha.
Now that's a dark deck, but it was a deck that I felt resonated the most.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, how I was feeling and what I needed. But then there was something I was like, you know, I need a wee something. You know,
Yeah.
I need something extra. And I had a look at, you know, and there's like decks out there that say that they deal with loss and grief and that. But they were all really like kind of like affirmations and oh, this is going to be okay. And it sounded like a kind of a like a sympathy card or something you would buy like Hallmark or something, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. There's
and
been a
I'm
real
like,
gap in, like, I think in general in decks that can really not just comfort us, because I think there's something about being comforted, sure, but
"Mm,
decks that see the pain
yes,
and the trauma and the loss and speak
yes."
to that.
Aye,
Yes,
and
agreed.
the
Yeah.
ugliness of grief and death and
Yeah.
loss, that's the thing because people are so terrified to talk about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it is ugly, it is traumatic, it's harrowing, do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
and I think as a reader as well, you know, there is people who sat across from me at my table or my screen, you know, because I mainly work online, you know,
Yeah.
and they are in abject misery and pain, and it
Yeah.
just rolls off them. And
Yeah.
there is nothing to basically hold a mirror up and say, you're seen,
Yeah.
you're heard, and you're understood.
Yeah. That is, I think, one of the most powerful things when you're going through excruciating pain. It's not always helpful to
No,
hear it's going to get better. Sometimes
no,
you need to hear this is fucking horrible,
yes,
and I see you in the horribleness. I
yes.
see you in the pain. I see you in the turmoil of it. And yes, we know it's going to get better at some point. We know it will ease. But in
Mhm,
that moment, you need that void and that pain and that loss recognized.
mhm. You
So
need
you,
to be acknowledged.
yeah. And so you felt that not having anything that could really do that when you're working with people,
Mhm,
and having such a recent and raw experience of your own, you could kind of draw on that. So you were
mhm.
like, okay, let's do it. So did you start with trying to find the right artist, or did you start with the deck concept? Like, where did you begin?
No, it was like, so once I had hit upon this idea, then there was the inner argument, you know, the inner like, should I do this? Should I not do
Yeah.
this? Oh, but there's
Yeah.
nothing done like this before. Oh, and maybe people aren't ready for it. And oh, why
Yeah.
me? What gives me the right? You know, why should I have the, you know,
Oh
the
Lord.
upstart, you know, the
I ask myself that question constantly. Who
you
the
know,
hell am I? Like, why
who am I
me?
to talk about this?
Yeah.
And it was just like, and it just kept going on. And it was a really good friend of mine who I trust implicitly. And I said to them, look, I've had this idea.
Yeah.
And they were like, what is it? And I said to them, and they were like, you're the only person I can imagine
Yeah.
doing this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why? And they were like, because Marion, you're so honest.
Yeah.
You're so authentic.
Yeah.
And and you would do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
No, no, it's no like a fad or what's your angle or you're going to create a deck. So what's your angle for your deck? You know, it's never been that, you know,
No.
because
The
it's
best
like,
things come from a place of like, how can I create something that can serve? And maybe
yeah,
that's just my own bias, but that's kind of
no,
how, if it can't serve,
mhm,
it feels so pointless to me. And
exactly.
so
What's
I
the point?
completely understand. You need somebody for some, especially something this tender. I feel like it needs to come from somebody whose desire is not branding and you know what I mean? Like, it needed to not be about that. It needed to be about, I want somebody to pick these cards up and know that they're seen. And you feel that in every single card.
And
so
that,
you spoke with this friend and they're like, okay, you're the one to do it. What next?
So I spoke like that. The deck will be available, Barb, once initial was done.
Yeah, people are like, is it available? So quickly, yes. So it was successfully funded on Kickstarter, and you ordered extra copies to sell after the fact?
Yes.
Beautiful. And so where's the status of the campaign now, if you don't mind sharing, just to kind of...
The campaign is funded. We reached the target in 3 days. It was nuts. It was the craziest 30 days of my life. Never really eat that again, to be perfectly honest.
I hear that from almost everybody. It's its own kind of trauma, let me tell you.
It's just
like it's good sometimes, but also.
But I mean, I was the only person literally on the planet who didn't think it would fund. Everyone's like, easy.
There was no question to me. There was no question. Yeah.
No, and I was just like, really? Do you think so?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew Teri's artwork. So what happened was, once I had decided, right, and my really good friend said to me, how would you feel if you went scrolling on Instagram or scrolling in social media and seeing somebody else doing it? I'm like, oh, fuck no. Oh, no. No.
Yeah.
And they were like, right, there's your answer. You need to get this done.
Yeah. Get it done. Yeah.
I was like, right, okay. So once I had initially had the conversation with myself and like talked about it to the nth degree, I'm like, right, where do I go for here?
Yeah. How do I start?
An artist.
Yeah.
And it kept, and then, again, the wee voice was kept like, right, you need to do this, you need to get this, you need to get this moving, you need to get this moving, blah, 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 blah. And I was making a cup of tea, standing in my kitchen making a cup of tea, and it was and I just was like, fucking fine then. And I slammed my cup down on the work surface. And I was like, if I need to do this, find me an artist. Just find me them. And yes, I had, so you know how these people who are really delicate and respectful conversations with the other side and their spirit guides and that, I'm no one of the people.
I wouldn't have pictured you being very delicate in your spirit communication.
It's like, no. So it's like, I'm sitting having the same cup of tea that I made, and I'm scrolling through Instagram, and my friend Sarah, she had added something to her stories, and Sarah is always buying beautiful things. Yeah. So I clicked on Sarah's stories, and I'm like, and she bought this beautiful wooden painted moon, like a crescent moon. And I'm like, what is that? What is that? How much is it? And where can I get one? That was my questions. So she had Teri's account on it. So I clicked on Teri's Instagram and it took me to her grid, and it was...
You just knew.
It was alchemy. It was like, there she's.
Yeah.
Found my artist, and I bought one of her moons.
Oh, I love that. I feel like you must have shared that. I feel like I've seen it before. Did you share it on Instagram? You must have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is beautiful. And so this is oil paint, yes?
So it's
I'm going to start showing cards while you talk.
It's oil paintings that she works in. And it was basically a case of, right, I've found her. Now, how the hell do I approach this girl? Because she had nothing to do with the world of divination.
Yeah.
Nothing. Do you want me to tell you a secret about that card, the innocent card?
Yeah, tell me all the secrets.
Okay. See if you hold the innocence card next to the child card.
Oh, I have it right here.
They match up.
Oh, no, look it. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. There's a thread that runs through them both. Oh, I love that so much. And now, just to remind me, because I believe there was something about the shape of this prototype is not the final.
Yeah, that is not the final. No, the final one is going to be like a traditional oracle size.
Oracle size. Yeah. So this is just a prototype because you were just putting copies out to get it seen, right? So I do love this
And I
version though,
made
but like,
and I made a wee mistake with the sizes. So
oh, that's fine. It got the message across. Like that's what matters.
Mhm.
So I find this very fascinating because when I was looking for artists, I was like, there's no way. I felt like there's no way an oil painter could have been possible for me because the oil painting is quite a process. And maybe not everybody knows, but like it's all in layers and things have to dry between, and it's like a whole freaking thing. And so what an undertaking. So did you have to like talk her into it, or was she down from the beginning? Like,
Well, so what happened was, so I bought that moon, right, and I never said anything, and I left it up to the universe, right, and I was like, right, I love her artwork. I believe that she's the right person. If something happens to me buying that moon, then we'll leave. I was not forcing it.
mm-mm.
And she messaged me and she said, "Oh, Marion, I'm really sorry. There's going to be a delay because the varnish is still drying on that particular piece that you've bought." And that opened up the
Conversation.
conversation. And I was like, "Oh, that's absolutely no problem, Teri. Um, while we're at it, um,
Let me just slide in this
so I basically I said to her, I was like, I've come up with this idea that I'd really like to do, and I need an artist, and I think you are the artist that I'm looking for. And Terry's a Gemini, so
really.
aye. So she was like, all right, okay, what is it? And I was, well, it's about grief, death, and loss.
Yeah.
But
Oh, this
it
card.
turned out that she had always wanted to create an oracle deck or some kind of card deck, but she
Yeah.
had no idea where to begin or how to
Yeah.
do it, how to create it. So it was just like pure temperance, like alchemy. Two of
Oh,
us came together and we had a 2.5 hour, 3 hour Zoom call. And by the end of it, we felt as if we'd known each other forever. And because it's a big thing, because there's so many projects that get started and never get finished.
yeah. You really have to know going in, and your artist really has to know going in. This is a long-term commitment. Like we're going to be at this for a while.
Yeah.
Everything I've done with Francesca so far, actually Francesca, and when I worked with the guys for Sassy Dragons, in both cases, you're looking at about a year of art creation typically.
Mhm.
It's a big commitment, and so like yeah, it's important to be clear.
So what I had said was, I wanted each of the cards to be original artwork, to
Hmm.
be actual paintings.
Hmm.
And what I said to Terry was, I was like, look, even if this doesn't succeed or something happens or something, you have still got that original artwork that you can sell
Hmm.
so that your time hasn't been wasted.
Hmm.
That was how we worked it. And it was just such an organic process. She went away and we decided on 48 cards because I feel
Yeah.
like 48 is just the sweet spot.
Hmm.
It's not too much that it's overwhelming, but it's not too little
Yeah.
left wanting.
It's funny because I'm like the first one I always complain when a deck has less than 50.
Mhm,
However, when it's something this specific, I think that you definitely hit the note. I think there's a point where it would have just been too repetitive or too much. And I do
yeah.
think you hit that spot where everything that needs to be covered is covered, but you didn't expand it just to fluff it out, if that makes sense. Because
No.
it could have become redundant and you didn't do that redundancy. And I think that's really perfect. I
Mhm.
didn't feel when I went through this that it felt shy on cards at all.
No, no, and I think, it was like how we did it was, and then I remember like Terry saying, right, now we've decided how many, how are we going to do this? And I was like, right, 48, and immediately my astrology brain kicked in.
Yeah.
It's like 48 cards is 4 sets of 12.
Hmm.
So we
Yeah.
did, we Terry did the famous art grid. So she did like a grid of 20 of 48 boxes. And then we split it up into the elements. And I mean, there's nothing to do with elements in the actual cards, but this
Hmm.
is our work process.
That's
So
the one
we
that got me.
it's
Ah,
that's the one for my the story behind that. That was for my mum and dad.
yeah. I felt it. I felt it. Like it was just so much. So she did this grid. And so did you, so it sounds like actually, interestingly, it sounds like the creative process for this is a little bit similar to, in a way, to how I feel like I work, where you kind of figured out this sort of structure behind it in order to put things in its boxes, right? And to sort of understand what themes you were going to do. So you use the elements and the
Yeah.
houses or planets, like how you said 12.
No, so we just used the elements. So we just used
Just
like
elements.
air, fire, earth, and water. So
Yeah.
like, and that was how we did it. That was how we split it up. So like for instance, I would maybe say like, so the unicorn card, the ancestor card. I was at here. I'm like, do you think we could get a unicorn? And I think we could somehow have it in like a sort of graveyard. And could we
Yeah.
maybe make it a bit Dickensian? Because it was round about Christmas time and I had been watching A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
That was, and you know, as she came back, that was all the instruction I gave, and she came back with that.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, I love that.
Um, and it was, you know, in some of the cards, there was like the images came flashing right into my mind. And
Yeah.
then Terry was just able to somehow almost like photocopy what I seen in my mind and put it
Yeah.
into a painting. Other ones, Terry would be painting one, and then she would feel another one, and she would
Yeah.
paint it, and I would love it. You know, so it was very much a two-way process. You know, it wasn't me saying, "Oh, I want blah blah blah." You know, it was two ways.
It was very much a collaboration in that way to decide the artwork and the scenes and like what was going to be depicted. It's interesting because I mean it really comes through. You can feel it. Do you feel like when you work with the deck that you feel I'm looking at it now, I definitely see and feel the elemental like foundation underneath it kind of slipping through. Like I go, okay, that's kind of earthy, that's kind of watery, that's kind of airy. I love that you managed to get both a dragon and a unicorn in the deck. That makes me so freaking happy. Um like, oh, so happy. And I love unicorn for ancestors. Obviously Scotland, that makes a lot of sense, right? But I have to say, like, how having this in my hands, like it's one thing to go, okay, we need a deck that speaks to grief, but having it and seeing how hard hitting it was has just it completely blew me away.
So this is
Oh
the
my God, is that the original? Oh my heart, that is so beautiful. That
so
is so beautiful.
I've got four of the originals. I've got a unicorn. I've got Clive the lion. He's up on my wall framed. And then I have got. I'll show you the other two I've got. I'm looking for beautiful frames for them. So
Yeah.
of course I had to have the siblings.
Yeah, you did. Oh, I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
love it.
And
Yeah,
then
this is something so special. So, oh wait, which one's that? Oh, I love that.
Right, do you
Oh
want
my
me to share the
God.
story, Guardian?
Yes, please.
This is really special. It's a really special story, and it's one that really kind of it was the first card I described to Terry that I wanted,
Yeah.
but I didn't know how we were going to do it. So I told her this story, and it was the last painting that she painted.
Really?
So a few years ago, sorry, I'm just getting this bag. A few
Yeah.
years ago, a good friend of mine, she phoned me one day, and she was like, "Marion, it's my wee girl's anniversary today. Would you come to the graveyard with me?" So Vicky, my friend, she lost a baby,
Oh,
and it was prenatal, so she wasn't born, but she had to give birth, but knowing that the baby wasn't going to survive, hadn't
yeah.
survived. So it was a really difficult, tragic thing.
Yeah.
And she said to me, "Marion, would you come with me to
Yeah.
the graveyard?" And I was like, "Of course I will. Of course
Yeah.
I will." So it was a Saturday afternoon. It was very quiet, and we drove up to the cemetery. And the baby and children part of the cemetery is separate. It's separated from the main gravestones by like a hedge, and there's like just like a lovely wee kind of, it's almost like a secret garden, you know,
Yeah.
going in through there, and you go in, and it's absolutely heartbreaking, you know. It's like you see all these tiny wee graves and everything, right? So I left Vicky to go and, you know, pay her respects and everything and do the things, and I just kind of stood at the side, and Vicky was coming towards me, right, and we were going to leave, and I felt this presence, right, because I feel, and it's really weird because children tend to come through to me.
Yeah.
A lot of messages for children that have passed away. So
Ugh.
there was this energy kept coming through. It was the energy of a wee boy, and I was guided. It was as if my hand was getting pulled, and I just let it go. I just went there, you know. I just went with the energy, and there was this bit of kind of unkept grass, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of like wild, a kind of wee bit of wilderness, right? And
Yeah.
before I knew where I was on my knees. I was on my hands and knees, and I was clearing this overgrown grass. And there was a wee metal plate on the grass, and it was basically, it was an unknown or an unnamed grave, and it was this wee boy,
Oh my God.
and it was the dates were like the kind of early Victorian period,
Yeah.
and they didn't know his name.
Oh.
They said it was
Oh, my
like,
heart.
here's this child, this son of God, I think they said something like that. So it indicated that it was a male who lived between, you know, these dates and that date. And it was basically, it was like a pauper's grave, you know,
Oh.
an orphan, right?
Yeah.
And I felt him beside me.
Oh
And
my God.
I basically, I said to him, I was like, is this you? And he was like, uh-huh. And I was like, and I'm like to myself, like, you know, no out loud, but in like my head, like speaking psychically. And I was like, what's your name? And he told me his name, which he asked me not to share, so I've never revealed it to anybody. And he said to me, he was like, I'm here. I look after the children when their mum and dad
Oh,
are here.
I knew this is where it was going.
Right? I was like, and he was like, Marion, will you remember me?
Oh my God.
Sorry, I can't tell
No,
this.
me too. Oh my God.
And that's him. That's me remembering him.
So that's the image of all.
Mhm.
Oh my God.
So excuse me while I've got something in my eye, you know, God,
Allergies.
you know, March in Scotland, though, it's really, you know, the allergies.
Yeah. Oh my God. What a story. I mean, and this is the thing, I think when I flipped through this and I just started going through the cards, it all just, I cannot describe how much it tapped me in. I also have to say, I really am so glad that there's no people in this deck. I think
That was
that's so important.
it was very. I mean, there's a couple of people-esque
Like
energies.
the Guardian is, I guess, people-esque, but like it's a shadow, like it's a silhouette.
Yes.
And the reason I say this, and I'm assuming this was, I should ask you, but what I interpreted when I saw that was like, you know what? I'm so glad, because if I was going through something and I was thinking of my loved one and there was a person, that would pull me out of that so quickly. So was that an intentional choice? Yeah. Yeah.
Because I remember watching your walkthrough, and I remember just smiling from ear to ear and just being so happy because I was terrified. I mean, I was
Aw.
shaking, pressing the play button, you know, but I really was, you know, because it was just such a, you know, yourself, you know, you work in this thing, you know, and it's like only you and maybe the artist and a couple of friends that have seen it. And,
Yeah.
you know, your friends will say, oh, that's beautiful, oh, it's really nice. But then at the same time,
Exactly.
you're saying that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you don't know until somebody outside of your group,
No.
you know, sees it.
And then
Yeah.
fact that, like, Teri's job, if you like, was to paint these incredible paintings, but then it was like my job to put like the words,
Yeah.
titles to it, like, and it just have the whole thing. And I remember watching your video, and I was crying
Oh,
because you got it. You
yeah. I know that feeling. Yeah.
it was as if I'm like, right, this is going to work. It
Yay.
was like a confirmation to myself. Like,
Oh.
I've done this. It was like I can have a big green tick. Right, Lisa gets. It's going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, it very, very much works. And it's interesting to me because prior to this, the only deck that kind of covered anything close to this topic what that I had was I still have it. It's called the Book of the Dead, the Book of the Dead Oracle by Scylla Conway. But the
Mhm.
thing about the Book of the Dead, and I do think it's special, but the Book of the Dead for me is I can't remember if I talked about this in my walkthrough, but I think I did. But the Book
Mhm.
of the Dead for me is very much, it's an exploration of the afterlife.
Mhm.
Now, here's the thing though, if I'm grieving, I
Mhm.
don't want to pull an exploration. That's something I can do maybe 5 years from now if I've currently, you know what I mean? When I'm ready to sort of dive into that. But like, in the active stages of grief, or even in the semi recent stages of grief, the last thing I want is to pull a card from, like, say, that deck that's going to indicate that there's anything not perfect about the afterlife for my loved one, right?
Exactly.
So it doesn't feel like the right deck for grief for me at all. It not even at all. And I've played with and looked at other decks. One of them that I picked up that some people said was good for grief was the Lonely Woods, or excuse me, Oracle. But that deck feels so sad to me. It's not, I don't know how to describe this. This deck doesn't feel, it is sad, but it doesn't make me feel sad. It makes me feel like there's something there that acknowledges the sadness, which is different to me.
Mhm.
It's not going to draw me into sadness. It's going to help me feel my own sadness.
It makes you feel witnessed.
Yeah, witness. That's a great word. Yeah.
That was like the kind of intention behind it.
Yeah.
Um, because it's like in the same like way I'll look to like ancestral decks and that, and they're fine and they're great, and they've got
Yeah.
their place. But
Yes.
again, like you were saying about that other deck, it's like it's moving on, it's moving past the initial stages. There was
Yeah.
nothing to turn around and say, basically, you know what, this is fucking shit, and it's
Yeah.
unfair, and it's no fair, and you stand and you have your tantrum and you cry and you scream to the heavens or whatever, that
Yeah.
you hate it and you hate, and you're angry at the person who left you, you're
Yeah.
angry at the person who died, and the ugliness of it.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt was needed.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. It's, it is so important to have something like this.
Mhm.
And I think that this is something like you and Teri both should be so incredibly proud of this. When, so you're, I'm going to drag it to something practical because I do want to circle back. So are you able to share like where you're at in fulfillment right now with your project?
So we are literally just because, see, Terry's been in maternity leave. She's had a wee baby
Elementary.
during this process as well, like,
Yeah.
which makes it even more incredible, the fact that she painted these images and went into this part of her psyche while she's
Yeah.
carrying life, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so we're just about to sure things up to get a final test print. Um, and we could have went faster.
Yeah.
You know the process, right? We could have went quicker, but it was always my intention to do this slowly.
Do it right. It's
Do
better right than quick. I mean,
exactly.
I've seen so many issues crop up, and yeah, delays are frustrating,
Mhm.
but it's so much better right than fast. And it's not worth the speed because here's the thing, at the end of the day, you're going to have however many of these decks left, right?
Mhm.
But you're going to have so many decks affected. If there's a mistake or if there's a problem, it's affecting that entire batch. Like
Exactly.
I have like quite a few Unicorn's Journey Tarot still available, right? And like if I'd have had a major error or something like that because I rushed it, like, oh my gosh, like that can ruin a project because then what do you do, Yeah.
Exactly, and that's the thing, you know, and it's like and like when I started the whole Kickstarter thing, and the reason, I mean, I know for a fact, you know, I mean, avid publishers basically beg me for this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going, no.
Yeah.
And it's been from the start, it was always going to be independent.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I will only do a tarot deck with a publisher, you know, that isn't the case in another oracle, but this was too personal.
That's how I was with Unicorn's Journey Tarot. Actually, it was a process for me though. When I first started, I was like, there's no way I could do this on my own. So I went to publisher. But the funny thing was I got one no. And it
Mhm.
wasn't even like a no. It was like there's issues that were outside of the project itself. And I was
Mhm.
like, but then I also found out about the production cycle if I'd have taken it mass market. And it would have been 4, maybe 5 years. And I'm like, no, number one. And number
Mhm.
two, I realized that I care so deeply, not only for what I wanted the final product to, like the final thing to be.
Mhm.
I didn't want to have to compromise on guidebook, on production stuff. I wanted the cardstock I wanted. I wanted the box I wanted. Like I wanted everything to be this I knew Unicorn's Journey was my if I never do another thing. That's kind of how I felt about my first book. Same way. My very
Uh-huh.
first book I self-published. I was like,
Mhm.
this
I
I
have
want it to
it.
be available forever. That's amazing. I want it to be available forever, and I don't want to have to compromise on anything. So that for sure, indie. So
Mhm.
grateful I did that. And same thing with my first tarot. So grateful I did that. Will I ever someday do a mass market deck? Maybe. I do
Mhm.
kind of like having control over the cardstock and the box and stuff.
See, that's the thing, you know.
Yeah.
I think the key is to do it with a publisher who you already
Yeah.
like their
Yeah.
cardstock, and you like their ethics, and you like the ethos behind what they do.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it can be hard to actually find a publisher that you feel really good about. And then is that a good fit for even their library? Like it's can be like needle in a haystack. So
yeah.
can finding a good artist though for your project that has the right vision. So like you really lucked out with Teri for sure. I know that you probably can't give us too specific of information because you're still getting ready to do the test print, but if you were to roughly ballpark it, do you know about when people should start to keep an eye out for this, like say on a website or Etsy shop or something?
So we're going to have a website. So we are.
Yeah.
It'll be a website. Terry, that's a Terry job.
Perfect. Love that.
She's a graphic designer, so she's got she's like a graphic designer and a designer in her businesses. So you know, shipping containers,
Yeah.
very relevant to what we do. So her main job, her main business is her and her business partner have got a company where they redesign shipping containers and make them into like rooms and make them into like shops and
Wow.
so that's Terry's main thing.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so it's amazing the fact that like she's like she knows how to work like a digital like InDesign and Procreate and all the things. She knows how to do the Terry things as I call them. They're Terry things.
Yeah, those are Terry things.
It's
Yeah,
like
so you guys will have a website and you're thinking ballpark timeline maybe end of this
um
year?
so during the Kickstarter I said that for film it should be October.
Yeah.
So kind of a October, November time. If it's earlier, then obviously I'll let you know. You can announce it to people, you know.
Perfect. Yeah.
Um, but what we're doing as well is so there's been a lot of interest. And you can still buy the original artwork. The artwork that's still available is available on Terry's website.
Perfect.
Teri Cottell
Oh,
Art.
look at Barb is right on it. Holy cow. Well done. That was so fast. Like you just barely got it out of your mouth. Barb's incredible. Links to all the things.
Right, you can
Amazing.
actually
That's
check out what
great.
is left. There is still some artwork left, and there is payment plans available as well if you want the original. We are looking into getting prints done,
Yeah.
so having prints available of all the cards.
Yeah.
So like you can have like your artwork. You know, we're looking at some various print on demand websites that we're just making sure we get one that's got the best quality. So we're going to have
Yeah.
that available as well.
Okay, so if fulfillment happens around October, November-ish for Kickstarter backers, probably we'd be looking at website stuff at the soonest, unless things happen earlier, which you can let me know. But at the
Mhm.
soonest, we'd be looking at like December, January, February, somewhere in that ballpark.
December, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to be shipping them myself. Them are
No.
using like a fulfillment centre.
Yeah.
Depending whether that's in China, whether that is in the UK, whether that's in North America somewhere.
Yeah.
We don't know because of all the changing things that's going on in the world.
I know things are changing constantly. I mean, a lot of it will depend on different things, but there's creators that have used fulfillment centers in all areas. So you should be able to get some pretty good feedback about that. I kind of chose based on where the majority of purchasers were for me. So that made the US an easier choice. It's like, okay, well, 80% of the backers or something are in the US, so it just made sense to me to put it there. But if you decide US, I'm very happy with mine. So reach out. I'm happy to connect you. But yeah, regardless of how you do it or how it ends up working out. I mean, obviously you'd have like it's just issues for things, but yeah, so many issues. But yeah, that was
it's as if the universe has basically brought all these different random people into my life, because it's like I now have a contact who had their own distribution and like haulage business.
Oh dang, yeah, that's great. That's a great resource. Yeah.
And it's like, and I keep asking him all these questions, and it's like he came to me as a client. I'm like, how on earth did you find me? He's like,
Yeah.
I heard two women in a pub talking about you.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Right, so he was in like a pub. He was traveling for his work, and he was in like
Yeah.
a hotel bar, and he heard these two women talking about me in the south of England. And one of them was like, "Oh, she's Scottish, and she's so cool, and she just tells it like it is." And I
This
was like,
sounds
"So
accurate as hell.
oh," and he's Scottish, and he just lives like a couple of miles away from me, so he got a reading with
Yeah.
me. And it's wild. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
when you need somebody, they just appear.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm so excited for everything that you do, and I think you bring a lot of authentic, joyful, real energy into our divination space, and I'm so grateful that you're a part of our community. I value you so much. I value your voice and everything you have and that you bring. And you speak at freaking conferences all over the place. I love that. We've got all that information in the bio. But yeah, I mean, if you ever get a chance to hear Marion speak, and I've got your channel linked down below, I believe. I've got your Instagram link down below, and your website. So all that information is in the description box for you to check out. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for asking me. Thank you so much. Because I only go to places where I'm asked. I'm not one of the people that go begging at folks' doors. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
that's weird energy. Don't love that. No. But the thing is, as I told you, like this came about partly because I was telling you at dinner, I'm so shy to ask people. And I don't know what, like, y'all see me on YouTube and I know I seem all bubble. I'm so shy. Like, you just don't know.
She really is.
So
She's so shy. Particularly when it comes to cheesecake. I mean, she will knock you down.
get
She
out of
will
my way. Give me
pull
my
you out
cheesecake.
of the way for a bit of cheesecake. Let me assure you.
Yeah, nobody's getting in between me and you know, the
Oh
last time
no.
I'd had Cheesecake Factory, it'd probably been like at least 10 years. I was so excited. But yeah,
I
so
know, you're just a bit like, oh no.
yeah.
And me and you are so excited.
I'm so excited. So y'all, if you want me to bring somebody on here for these chats, please drop me a DM or send me an email. Give me the nerve to who I should reach out to. I would love to hear from you. Those of you watching back later on, this video will be open to the public in about a week from now. When you are watching it back online and you're hanging out with us, if you have questions for Marion, drop them in the comments section. Marion, you don't need to babysit it. I will reach out to you and ask people's questions to you so you have a chance. But any questions down below, that'd be great. Main thing that you want people to know, what's like the main thing you want to direct people to or share with people? Is there anything you can think of? Last words? Not like you're going to die, but like last words on the stream. I should have found a different way to word that. Final words time.
I mean, right, okay, my tarot cards, you can get them. Peggy
Yeah.
bags, they can go in a museum because they're beautiful.
We're not bumping you off just yet. Nope. Nope.
All right, okay. Let me get a chance to enjoy life first, please.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, final words to people. You know what? Regardless of what stage of the journey you're on, you know what I mean. Whether it's tarot, whether it's astrology, whether it's just sitting tossing a yes or no coin, just enjoy yourself. Don't take it too seriously. If anybody tries to gatekeep, you tell them to fuck off. No.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
Poetic.
That was perfect. Y'all, thank you so much. Unicorn fan members, thank you for hanging out with us during the chat and asking so many thoughtful questions. We appreciate you so, so, so much. To everybody watching, thank you for joining, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye.
Bye.